To this now, those who served with the late former Defence Minister Mosiuoa Lekota have praised him for his contribution to the fight for political freedom and democracy in South Africa. The 77-year-old COPE co-founder died in hospital last week after an illness. Former cabinet colleague Dr Sydney Mufamadi joins us now to reflect on the life and legacy of Mosiuoa Lekota. Dr. Mufamadi, good evening to you. Thank you very much for your time. Let's start with your early reflections of Mosiuoa Lekota. When did you meet him, and what were your first impressions when you first met him?
Good evening, Koli, and the viewers of Newzroom Afrika. I came to know Terra Lekota, both by name and reputation, a little over 50 years ago. At the time, he was one of the Black consciousness activists who, during those dark days when several organizations, including the ANC and the PAC, were banned, came forward to act as pallbearers for the regrouping of the forces for change.
One of the people who was reflecting on his legacy is Barnim Tomboti. He's a columnist who writes fervently in the Sunday Times nowadays, and he describes him as a bull who came with this face that is an inviting face, friendly face, but you dare say something that is going to tick him off, my goodness, you'll probably walk away a wounded man. Talk to us about that kind of a person and a principled man, many have reflected.
Yes, as I said, I first knew him by name and reputation. I came to know him again in person after he served a prison sentence, and he came out at a time when the galvanization of the mass movement in our country was on the uptick, approaching its high point. We then, when he came out, integrated him into a clutch of professional revolutionaries of the time, and he became one of the foundation members and spokesperson of the United Democratic Front. And indeed, we saw in him a man of great passion, a man to whom our country and its people came before anything else.
Yeah. And you talk about him going to jail. This is in the mid-70s. And then when he went to jail, he was a member of the Black consciousness movement. But when he comes out of jail, as someone describes, he says he seemed to have found a new and perhaps permanent political home, and that's the ANC, the party to which you belong, but he does not die an ANC member. How does that come about?
Yes, as you say, you see, he went into prison as a Black consciousness member and activist. In prison, he found that the ANC was one of the organizations which existed there. As an organization, the ANC then existed in three fragments. One in prison, secondly, inside the country underground, and thirdly, in exile. So he was recruited in prison. He came out of prison and swung immediately into action, working with us, as I say, in the UDF. The ANC got unbanned, and he continued to take part in the activities of the ANC. He was part of the first democratically elected government, then working at a provincial level as the premier of the Free State.
Yeah.
Now you want to know why he ended his life outside the ANC. You remember I said he was a man of principle, a man of good ethical values. He was, in a sense, principled almost to a fault. And I'll explain a little bit later what I mean by that.
Mm-hmm.
There came a point in time when we started to see in the ANC the reawakening of the demon of ethnic parochialism. You know, in a whole ANC meeting, we started to see something unheard of, where someone would raise their hand as a candidate for leadership, and they are paraded as 100% Zulu boy. Terror just could not put up with this deviation from what he knows to be the principles and the values of his movement. It became worse when we went to a conference in 2007 in Polokwane,
Yeah.
and we came out with an outcome which was not very pleasing. Now, terror at that point showed a particular characteristic of his. He did not have much faith in patience and persuasion as methods of managing internal party tensions and contradictions.
Yeah.
And therefore, he thought fragmenting the movement was the thing to do at the time. Many of us thought that there was another and perhaps better way of dealing with that situation.
Yeah.
Namely, making sure that within this movement, you have people who can hold these deviations in check. And indeed, we saw over time some of the people who were opposed to what terror stands for at the time, coming back later to say, with the benefit of hindsight, we were wrong. Now, imagine a situation where COPE was not formed at that time, and yet so many people who stood for the true values of the ANC inside the ANC.
Yeah.
I think by counterfactual reasoning, it can be said that the ANC would actually have benefited from the input of those who had the equipment of foresight. Because coming back and saying, with the benefit of hindsight, a lot of things had gone wrong, some of which are still playing themselves out to this day.
Yeah.
We think that had Comrade Terra and some of the comrades who formed COPE at that stage acted differently, perhaps we would be having a South Africa which approximates exactly what we wanted the new South Africa to be.
Interesting reflections indeed. And I wonder, though, whether people, ordinary South Africans now, having watched the ups and downs of the ANC, I wonder whether they would disagree with the actions that Mr. Lekota took, and that was the step he took in 2008 to serve divorce papers on the ANC. Dr. Mufamadi, time is always an issue for us. I'd like for us to end the conversation on a completely different note. I know that you are Mosiuoa Lekota's former cabinet colleague, but I can't not take advantage of the fact that you are President Ramaphosa's national security advisor. And time and again, you and I almost have to remind viewers that you don't advise him on security matters in a sense that we're talking safety and security. This is all about diplomacy. South Africa has commented on what is going on in the Middle East right now. You've condemned the US and Israel for what it is doing to Iran, but at the same time, you've had some choice words for Iran as well, for attacking its neighbors. If one were to ask, what is the current government's official position on what's going on in the Middle East, what would the response be?
Well, we are gravely concerned about what is going on in the Middle East at the moment. We think what is happening there has ominous implications for the whole world. You have an incumbent superpower which takes to war without even asking the elected representatives of the people of that country, the United States, for authorization for its actions. You then have a war which is waged by the United States of America and its ally, Israel, on Iran. At the same time, what we are seeing is the development of a horizontal conflict into the rest of the Gulf region. All of it exhibiting this tendency of no respect for the laws of war. We can't have peace and security in the world unless the world reins itself in and remain law-governed. This war, as you can see, is striking at the heart of the production of energy resources, global energy resources. It has got implications for the world economy and even for the American economy whose leaders started this conflict. They don't come more short-sighted than that to provoke this kind of war. So we condemned the lawlessness which underpins this war that we see happening in the Middle East. But we went beyond condemnation. We are reaching out to all the parties involved in this to see if we can help them find a diplomatic off-ramp. But it behoves them to demonstrate at least a modicum of sensibility about this war and take responsibility for cooperating in the first place with the United Nations, which President Trump appears to be hell-bent on trying to peripheralize from the management of world affairs. This cannot be allowed. No country, big or small, should be allowed to to breach the guardrails which have been in place since 1945, to breach them at will and get away with that misdemeanor.
Dr. Sydney Mufamadi, thank you very much indeed for your time and reflections tonight, reflecting on the late former Cabinet Minister Mosiuoa Lekota, and at the same time talking to us in his capacity as the National Security Advisor to President Cyril Ramaphosa.